Something I was doing this morning, just very quickly, and let's not forget this very subtle sales pitch, is that these webinars are evidently to pay it forward as much as is humanly possible. And I'm aware I might freeze while I'm speaking, but we can cope with that. I'm just turning on my avatar though, because for those of you who have MS Teams, have you got avatars? I certainly absolutely love mine. I've even managed to change my hair to almost match the avatar that I created. And we just love having a bit of a play. And a lot of the tips on how to use MS Teams are actually on our recruitment hit platform, which if some of you have already got licenses, which is brilliant. Those of you who have not got licenses and want to learn how to use Bullhorn more effectively, create avatars so you can have interesting internal or, God forbid, external meetings, then by all means, sign up for a hit trial and you will be able to see what we are using hit for in terms of helping our lovely clients with speed and pipeline. But for now, obviously today we're looking at Bullhorn vacancy management. So let's begin. So we've obviously got the lovely Rose and Matt here today. And the point of all of this lovely webinar, is to show you some fantastic, what we call Bullhorn first tips. So not Bullhorn on a Friday, not Bullhorn when you're wearing your red underwear, not Bullhorn when you've got a minute, not Bullhorn when you, oh, damn, I need to send an email. Bullhorn first. And then you'll spend less money and less time messing about with other systems. Get those candidates placed a bit quicker than your competitors. Keep everybody super happy. Let's not forget we do three things. It's all, though, about shining lights on great stuff and helping our recruitment clients do better with training, with recruitment technology, and ultimately with automation as well. It's a big deal for us. So just bear that in mind. Lots of coaching, lots of training. And if you have automations and you actually need a load of things building to make your life better, then by all means, let us know. We're currently working with a few clients on cleaning up their databases with some of our build products. So give us a shout if you need any help with that. And obviously, as I'll constantly say to you lovely people, if you don't have a HIT license, sign up for one. There's loads of fantastic tips on there to help you onboard new starters, as well as if you are a bit long in the tooth like I am, some really cool tips to help you refresh and become more effective. We've got another webinar in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks today. If you have automation, or even if you don't, and you are just inquisitive as to how automation works, and you want to know whether or not it's going to help your business, which, secret, it absolutely will, then the lead generation webinar is absolutely up your street. And in almost a month's time, we are going to be running a candidate shortage webinar, because apparently there is one, or is there? So my job is to warm you up, because it's been a bit cold recently for us in Leeds. My whippet wouldn't even leave the house yesterday. She was like not even leaving, even with her coat on, like literally, I think there's indentations on the carpet where I was trying to pull her forward and her paws were digging in. That's another story for another day. So warming you up. Right. We know that recruitment data on average feels like it has very little value. Whereas actually, if you run a recruitment business or a desk, you know that your most important asset is your people and your data together. We know as well from the clients that we speak to and loads of reporting that we've done over the years that the majority of candidates you place, you've already got before you waste loads of time and money finding them elsewhere. Dough, as if we were on Simpsons. Equally, we know if you don't look after your data, it gets a bit rotten. On average, 2% a month, which on average is 25% a year, which is pants. Yeah, unless, of course, you've got automation or very clever 24/7 recruiter robots keeping it clean and nurtured for you. Automation. We know you're wasting loads of time, and we know that you're limiting sales. For some of you that have not been in recruitment very long, and for some of you who've been in recruitment a long time, there is a big difference in terms of how we used to run recruitment. We used to make a lot more money. We used to place quicker, ironically, with less systems and less data. Yeah, we used to charge a lot more, and some of us used to drive much nicer cars. Recruitment's changed a lot in recent years. It's become very data heavy, quite bloated with the volume of tech that recruiters think they need. And ultimately, sometimes, whether we like it or not, we're administrating recruitment rather than consulting it. And I personally think tech should be helping us do the opposite, should be helping us be consultants, niche specialists, advisors, trusted, not just get me a job. So we know as well, because Bullhorn tells us this, that if you find a candidate on your own system, you place them quicker than if you find them elsewhere. That 20 days is a lot, isn't it? Even if you just said, every candidate I place, I'm going to take a 20-day holiday, that'd be nice. But that is effectively, if you think about it, what you could be doing, she says, God forbid. Again, we're wasting too much time looking for candidates we've already got. Let's just stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. It's just a waste of time and it makes us very uncompetitive. So we want to make you more productive. That's what these webinars are about. We know that if you use CRM more effectively, you're more productive, you sell more, you're probably happier in yourself as well. Look in the mirror and like what you see. Equally, you're not blowing loads of money on stuff you don't need, which might even affect your take-home pay, your profit, which in itself is a bit of an own goal. And we also know that actually, in a lot of instances, the candidates you get from this reverse spamming aren't actually fit for purpose and just make more of a mess for you to wade through. We know that candidates need managing as well. You know, Bullhorn recently did a poll that said 22% of candidates think that a week after they've applied for a job, they'll have been offered it, which I personally find a bit incredible. When did that start happening? When did that become the norm? Never in my 25 years in recruitment. But we know that candidates need managing. We know that we need to actively manage them. The minute you put a candidate and client in a room on their own without you, big risk to the process. So how can you use Bullhorn to stay in control? Okay, so think about your recruitment life cycle. Think about where you want to become more effective. Think about the stuff that Rose and Matt are going to show you today, because if you get really good at vacancy management, you can then start making more money. You can then start pointing your laser at other parts of your recruitment life cycle and just becoming more efficient, more effective. Yeah, your clients are not paying you to push paper around all day and hunt. They're paying you for candidates that are going to make a difference to their businesses. So be more productive, get rid of that admin, get more creative, reduce that reliance on stuff that you really don't need, and ultimately just get better, become more resilient, become more necessary to your candidates and clients. I'm going to put myself on mute, close down my camera, and just click in the background like a good little girl. Good luck, both of you.
Thanks, Liz. So there's 3 parts of vacancy management we're going to talk about today, and they are bits to do with adding a job, a couple of things to do with your submissions, and then a few bits to do with placements. So 7 things we're going to talk about. The first are to do with your job status and your finding matching candidates. So that's really the adding a job stage. Then we're going to talk about your submission list, your rejections, and recording interview attendance, which is the submissions bit. And finally, when it comes down to the placement, the end goal, hopefully, of all those vacancies, we'll have a little chat about submitted versus approved and your internal distribution lists. Okay, so to start off with adding a job, we've got 2 really good tips with this. So the first one is the job status. Now, depending on the business you work in and depending on the speed you're working in as well, you put a job on Bullhorn, it automatically goes on as accepting candidates, and it generally tends to stay there until you actually close the job or your place. However, the danger with that is if you've got a very busy business, lots of different jobs going on all the time, and the data is not recorded there, you might actually end up working a job that's already been closed, or it's already cancelled, or it's already on hold, or it might be that the job has been potentially put off for a few months. So by using those job statuses, you can really drill down to make sure you're only working those jobs that are accepting candidates right now, so that you're not wasting your time on stuff that actually you might not get paid for, because who wants to do that?
Lovely. So the next one for me is a tip that it's just, well, Matt and I agreed, it's hugely underutilized in Bullhorn, and people sometimes don't even know it's there. But there is a find matching candidate. So once you've got your job on the system and you've got it coded up, you've got some nice detail in there, especially if you've got the job description on there as well, then from the actions menu, you can actually run a find matching candidate search, and it will do the searching for you and hopefully bring you up a nice list of candidates to look at.
Brilliant. So the next bit of your vacancy is your submission. So that's the bit where you really, want to get into the nitty-gritty of it and make sure you're getting the most out of it. So the first thing, and this is probably something that you've heard, if you've come to our webinars before, you've heard Rose and I talk about your submissions lists. So one of the big challenges when you're trying to place is finding candidates that are not just worth, that you don't just want to place, but finding good candidates that are worth interviewing. Well, if you go into your shortlist list or your submissions list, you can actually see the candidates that you've already qualified that are good for interviewing. They might not necessarily have been placed or got the job, but those runners-up or those silver medalists, you know that they're already good and they're already great for an interview. So why not have that as your first port of call?
Again, rejections for me, when I do these lovely things called discoveries that we do with a lot of clients on Bullhorn, I think rejections for me is probably one of the main things that lots of people don't do, whether they don't realise that they can't do it, or it's just sort of passed by, or it just remains in people's heads. But the information that comes along with a rejection is really valuable and it to go forward with. So some clients, when they do rejections, so candidates not got forward for whatever reason that might be, sometimes people register that as a note on the candidate, which is great. To some degree, you've got that information there so you can refer to it. But what a lot of people don't seem to realise is if you update it on the submission status list, so actually from the job view, not only can you add a note which copies onto the candidate record, so you can read that sort of historical rejection information later, but it also updates the job as well. So your submissions list, your shortlist list on the job is always an absolute true reflection of where those candidates are in that process. And then hopefully that just makes life easier going forward.
Then interview attendance. So along a similar vein, now with your interview attendance, you put people forward for an interview and then you might move them to rejected if they're rejected, or you might move them on to the next stage of interview if they get there. But what if you get people who aren't turning up to interviews? The last thing you want to do is waste your time on candidates that are going to be unreliable, that are going to annoy your clients, and just generally are going to be a bit of a waste of your energy and your resource. So you can actually use the interview statuses to record if they're not showing up to things. So next time you do your sourcing, you find a candidate that looks great, you can have a look, but if in their interview bit, if they've got lots of did not attends, you know not to waste your time on them and not to waste your client's time either. So you can just make sure that you're really only putting forward those candidates that you know are great, you know are reliable, and you know aren't going to let your clients, which is going to speed up that sourcing, and it's going to make everyone a lot happier, which is going to make you a lot more money. On to placements then. So our final couple of little tips.
So again, something that we talk about a lot, certainly when we do automation training, definitely Bullhorn training as well, is this part of the process when a placement is created. So let's say a recruiter creates a placement and by default that goes on as submitted in Bullhorn. And lots of people don't really know what a placement approval process is. Some might have it, some might not. But I suppose the key thing is if you are using that placement approval process, so it's submitted, that usually means it needs to be checked by someone, if that's a manager or maybe even someone in finance, that make sure that you do flick it to approved when it's ready. You know, the key tip there is don't miss a fee because a placement isn't ready. So make sure you're looking at your placement list and making sure that anything that you've got that's still submitted, well, why is it sat at submitted? Do I need to clear something up? Does a field need filling in before it can be approved? And then hopefully an invoice raised.
And finally, our last tip, and again, this is one that we often see as really underutilized, is internal distribution lists. So whether you're moving someone to an interview stage or even to a placement stage, there's probably going to be people within your organization you need to alert. It might be your manager because they have to approve it. It might be HR to make sure the compliance is sorted. It might even be finance so they can prepare the invoicing. Now, if you're having to email your manager, email HR, email finance, that could very quickly waste 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of your time, where actually you could probably spend on the phone sourcing your candidates for another placement. If you get an internal distribution list ready, though, with the people that are going to be need to involve in that process, once you put that candidate through, whether it's to an interview or to a placement, instead of you having to worry about, have you told this person, have you told that person, it's all just taken care of for you in the background, saving you time, making sure that everybody's on the same page and nothing is missed. And that way you can get back on the phone, back doing what you love and back doing what you're great at and doing it all over again.
Okay, evidently, as we say, don't just turn up and go, that was great. Yeah, we all do it. We go to Rec Expo, we go to different APSCO events, we listen to stuff and our minds go, and then we get back to our desk and we go, yeah, that improvement, I'll do that when I've got time. There's never time, ever. No one's ever going to write to you and go, do you know what? I'm going to put your job on hold for a week while you improve yourselves. Got to do it. Got to get on with it. Yeah. No time like the present, no time like yesterday. So make sure you try these tips. Please sign up for a Recruitment Hit trial if you've not done it yet. You get 3 days free access to all of the content. Bullhorn, Teams, Calendly, sales tips, recruitment training, Sourcebreaker, automation, Interview, Pager. And I'm going through the list of all of the other stuff that we've got on there, but you'll see it all in there. It's gorgeous. And it's called HIT because it's high intensity interval training, not, oh God, I'm going to drown in content. There's way too much for me to learn. Nice and quick, nice and quick. And that's a picture of one of our clients who loves doing our HIT as well. We recently launched a new optimise course, which is about change management, not train management. It's a different company. Change management, performance management. There's some really good stuff in there. He loved that. Don't forget, we've got our lead gen automation training or tips in 2 weeks' time. Try saying that 3 times. It's now wet February, so I'm really struggling. So lead gen, please sign up for that. If you want a link, just type in the word auto into your chat and I'll send you a link to that webinar and you can sign up and turn up if you've got time or watch it with a glass of wine if you haven't. And equally, candidate shortage tips. Rose and Bat are going to show you some really cool ways of extracting people out of Bullhorn that you didn't even know were there. Gorgeous. Really gorgeous. Keep us posted on how you do. We'd love your feedback.
Take care.
Thank you.